Sie dreht den Schlüssel. Die Tür ist auf. Town & Country House. Das wirklich preisgünstige Haus in Markenqualität. Plus Geld zurück Garantie. Infos bei allen Town & Country Partnern und www.hausausstellung.de.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience or experiences. And as usual, I think I am just going to dive right into it. And so, you've often heard me talk about devotion on this program, and so once again, I'm going to bring up the whole devotional subject. And a person asked me, well, what good does devotion do you? I mean, what is that building? What good is devotion? Why should we even do it? And my answer to that really is devotion is rocket fuel. It's rocket fuel for your Kundalini equation, and anybody that is involved in a devotional practice is really in a very, very rapid practice. It's not a slow horizontal practice. It's a very strong practice. And so this is something you want to really, really consider when you're inside of the action of your devotion. It's a very, very, very strong level of love materia, you might say. If you can synthesize love down to the quality of a mineral, well, then this is what devotion might come closer to. It's that stage of semi-divinity as well, just like the human being is becoming the stage of semi-divinity, where half of the person is in the other realm and half is here in the physical. And so the mixture of those two qualities is what the devotional quality brings about in an individual. It's very important for people to understand that, so that when they're able to go into devotion, they can wrap themselves in a level of patience and understanding, if that is what their equation is to give to them. But before I go any further, let me do a quick sound check here. Looks like I have Vincent, Cole, and Mary Jean at least are there in the chat room. How's the sound coming through, folks? Is it okay? Let's see who's going to be the first one to type. Let's see. Well, I don't know who to put Vincent 91 wins it by a hair. Oh my gosh. Great. So the sound is coming through all right then. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Very good. Let me get some of this garbage off of my screen here. There we are. Okay. All right then. So continuing onward. Within devotion, you greatly accelerate the equation of the Kundalini upon you, and so those of you that are being naturally given into the devotion equation, you want to read that as being naturally guided and directed into focused levels of strong love, that you may receive focused levels of very, very strong love. And so it's very important for you to understand that the devotion itself is an action and a substance at the same time. It's giving off a radiance that will attract more radiance. It won't necessarily leave the premises. This type of devotional divine interaction can stick with the geology for a long time. It can also just stick with the regular brick and mortar that whatever any home is made of. This is the type of thing that makes a holy place holy. Okay, this level of interaction with people. It looks like I have some people coming in, and I have to apologize. I'm the one that started late here, and so I think I just put up the chat room with 3 minutes to spare. So my mistake for coming in so quickly. Just as an afterthought, I do want to add something that I haven't been adding in the last few episodes, and that's where a person can get a hold of some of this information. And one area is on YouTube, and the YouTube channel is Kundalini, Kundalini. So Kundalini. On YouTube, you can reach there's about a little over 300 videos there for you to have a look at. Also, Kundalini Awakening ! On Facebook. That's a group. So that's in the Facebook groups area, Kundalini Awakening ! As well as in the same area on Facebook, we have Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini Healing, Kundalini People. We have a whole venue of communities for people to explore that actually have the Kundalini. And so these are some of the areas where you can go to. Another one is Kundalini Awakening Systems1.com, and that's the number 1.com. And that is the one of the main websites. And I believe we'll be opening up another website specifically targeting the UK people. So UK people, I just want you to feel targeted now, in case you didn't before. So that's currently where some of the areas are. Another area would be Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo groups. So if you are a Yahoo user, you can go right on in and sign up for those groups as well. We have a whole suite of groups there in the Yahoo land, as well as the Facebook land, and we actually have a few in the Google Plus land as well. So you can go to Kundalini Awakening ! In Google Plus as well. And so continuing onward here, devotional as a form of materia, devotion as a form of energy that can be given and can be in some ways offered to initiate levels of transformation or levels of manifestation that a person may require upon their path within the Kundalini context. So this is not an unheard of quality. The devotion can be very, very, very strong, and it can have actual tactile effects, as I may have mentioned on the program before. Is Saint Teresa of Avila, in some of the chapels she would pray in, she would set fire to the place. Okay, she had to be held down to her pew, or she would start floating away. They always had to have two nuns sitting next to her. Okay, these are fairly physical ways of interacting with regards to our physical environment, our physical space. And so it's very important for you to know that Kundalini does do that. This isn't anything that's just, oh honey, if you wake up you'll stop having your dream. This is the dream that just keeps on going, keeps on going, as that little rabbit does on the ancient television commercials. Yeah. Kundalini keeps it going, and so you really need to understand that as you are in it already, or as you are coming into it, you need to understand that the status quo is the new norm. It's not what you've grown used to. So, if you're not used to having entity interactions, well, then you're just going to have to find a way to acclimate yourself and begin to have these entity interactions without being consumed by the entities and without being in any way harmed by that influence within and around you. It's important that you not be harmed. It's important that you learn how to travel in these areas as well. So the reason we do the devotion is the devotion really, really puts us on a very, very rapid track towards specific energetic-based accomplishment. So the same kind of energy that you would work with in meditation or in Qigong or in the 5 Tibetans is what you're working with regards to any of the practices of the safeties. And so as you practice the safeties, you're working with these energies on a very, very, very specific level. And that specificity is pointed right at your Kundalini. Your Kundalini, its awakened state or not within you. So just so people know, when they hear my voice, you even hear the voice, that can begin a chain reaction in an individual, and your Kundalini may activate just by virtue of hearing the Kundalini in the voice of one who has it. And so pay attention, folks. Pay attention to yourself. It's all about you. Yes. Yes, indeed. It is all about you. It is all about how you are responding to or driving yourself towards Kundalini interaction. Devotion is, as I've mentioned before, devotion is a vertical path. Just the same way devotion is a vertical path, physical prostration could be a more horizontal path, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I mean, you have certain paths will get you there at a certain amount of time, and other paths will have other time fixations associated with them. And so the thing you want to do is you want to figure out which one you're most comfortable with, and then follow that path. And in some cases, it may have to be the one that you're least comfortable with, is the one that the Kundalini will push you into. So then you go into the one that you're least comfortable with. But either way, you're coming into levels of a strange new land, with a new landscape and new animals, new plants, new understandings, new groupings of people, new actions, new adventures, everything is kind of new when you add a whole spiritual dimension into your everyday life, which is what we're doing here. Remember, with Kundalini, one foot in heaven, the other foot on earth. That's what we're doing with the Kundalini. That's what's happening to our biology. Our biology is being changed by the Kundalini in order for us to be able to adapt to a stronger and more vibrant level of spiritual divine energy that is pushing itself through us and around us, mixing with us as it changes itself into radiance that falls and expands out from us into our environment. Think about that. And so, of course, the more devotion you do, the further along a person could get. If you could chart Kundalini, bring a like a flow chart to it. And one person kind of did. I'm trying to remember his name. Yitzhak Bentov. If any of you have ever read any of Yitzhak's work, Bentov, B-E-N-T-O-V as in Victor. Yitzhak Bentov, he did kind of associate, he picked up on the whole Kundalini vibe, and he started doing some scientific measurements with it. And it's in the back of one of his books. He has a whole chapter on Kundalini and who it awakened in, and what they, what kind of jobs they have, and a bit of a personal rundown for those people, and just to see if he could find a pattern in how Kundalini awakens in people. And so I forget the name of the book though, but Yitzhak Bentov is the author, and it's called Stalking the Wild Pendulum, I believe is the name of the book. Stalking the Wild Pendulum. Yitzhak Bentov. And that would be in the back of the book. But until people do get a more profound understanding of what Kundalini is about and what is happening to them, there's going to be strong levels of fear and strong levels of resistance that a person's going to move into as they come into these more profound levels of understanding and experiencing. And it's to these folks that I would typically begin to, if their circumstances fit it, I would push them either away from devotion or into devotion. I would typically push a person more towards a greater expression of love, and so devotion is a greater expression of love, and so I will guide people towards love rather than away from love at times, but I can't say that for every single time. It's not that way for every single person. But devotion is that granulation of love that allows your voice to be heard very clearly within the divine firmament, clearly to your Kundalini and clearly to the Kundalini of those around you. As you walk through the city, you'll come into contact with people that have different levels of Kundalini awakened within them, and Kundalini knows itself. And so as you do your devotions, you get stronger in the Kundalini. As you get stronger in the Kundalini, you get more information. As you get more information, you have more of an understanding what's occurring to you, and so you don't resist as much. And if you don't resist as much, things go much better for a person inside of the Kundalini. You don't want to resist Kundalini at all if you can help it. Okay. Well, I'm a little concerned here, everybody. Blog Talk is either doing something to us once again, oh, I see. Okay, Beatrice, Santara. Looks like we have a person with some questions here, folks. Hello, Beatrice.
Hi, Crystal. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. I called because I wanted to ask you a question about something that is happening to me every time I sit down and do mantras. And I tend to yarn a lot when I'm doing mantras, and I wanted to know what causes this to happen.
Yawning is a spiritual release mechanism. So you should, if you find yourself yawning, that's perfectly normal.
Okay. So, and also, I also sneezing a lot.
Yeah, sneezing is it's a hyperactivation for that moment of the sneeze, of the Ida and Pingala, and with that force of air, dislodging something that might be caught in your windpipe or whatever. But it also has an energetic infusionary point, shall we say? So when you do sneeze, you kind of hit a reset button a little bit there.
Okay. So this is good. This is a good sign.
Yep, it's all both of those are good signs.
Good sign. I also wanted to ask you, is there anything that you see that I need to know with my Kundalini that will further my process to go higher, and like anything that I need to improve or do. I did, as you asked me the last time when we spoke, about to think with my intuitive mind and not the mental mind. I've been doing that, and that's helped me a lot. But just in case if I've missed something.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, how about the safeties practice? Are you doing the safeties?
Yes, I'm doing the 5 Tibetans.
And the gratitude?
Yes, gratitude, everything.
And the forgiveness?
Forgiveness.
The tolerance?
Tolerance.
Patience?
Patience.
Trust?
Trust.
You're doing all of those on a conscious level every day?
Yes.
Well, I want you to do them twice a day, okay?
Okay.
Twice a day, make an intentional effort to do those qualities.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Crystal.
You're very, very welcome, Beatrice. Thank you for calling the program.
Have a wonderful day. Bye.
And I would like to introduce Her Holiness, the Celtic Queen of Questionable Comforts, Santara Kundalini. Hello, Santara.
Hello, Chrism.
How are you?
Hi, Chrism. I'm good. Hello, everybody in the chat room, everybody listening in the archives, and all the people on the in the studio at the moment. Good to be here, Chrism. How are you?
Fine.
Good. Will I give... I was a little late arriving. Did you notice?
I know. You left me hanging in the wind. I didn't even think
I saw. Oh, no. Okay. I was at a very important event called a Christmas pantomime with my daughter. So
yeah, whatever.
Beauty and the Beast. So I'm just filled with song at the moment in my head. So let me go ahead and give everybody the place they can go to if they would like to make a donation to the work that Chrism does, the very important work that he does, because he does this work really 24/7. I mean, the work that we see him doing on the groups, that we see him doing here for the 2 hours every week, on the radio show. There is so much that he does behind the scenes that nobody sees, nobody knows about except the person that he is helping. And so really he does this work 24/7 except when he's sleeping, and it is his full-time work. And if you would like to assist with this, donations are very, very welcome. So I'm going to give you the, I have 2 blog spots that you can go to. The first one is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and the other one is, it's easier to remember, I think it's chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and the donate button is there. And press that, and it's very easy to give a donation. You can give it through PayPal, and that's probably the easiest way to do it. So again, all donations are gratefully received, and you know that there's no expectation of that everybody has to make a donation. It's people that want to make it, and people who are in a position to do so. And that's why I give out this every week. Some people actually try to make a donation on the Yahoo group, but the donate button isn't working there. So please just go to, let's say, I'll just give you one, chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and you can make your donation there. So thank you, Chrism. That's the only announcement I have at this moment.
Well, thank you, Santara. Nice to hear the information being given out. So as we go further into our devotional understandings, very important to keep in mind that as the devotion expands, well, so will the phenomena expand. As the phenomena expands, so will that phenomena come upon you, the individual. And all of a sudden, you're coping with phenomena that you're not prepared to cope with. And this is where a lot of the fragmentations can occur for people. The phenomena can be something like as easy as kriyas, which are the spontaneous movements of a Kundalini on a person, or direct interactions with entities that kind of fracture the idea that, we're here alone and, there is no other creation besides us. Well, it kind of upends up that whole mistaken hypothesis. And so, you have to get used to a different level of understanding and mixing into the spiritual environment. The spiritual environment has very, very specific levels to it as well, and these levels can be felt on the etheric body. You can feel a denser vibration as you go into an area of density. In the energetic environment, just as easily as, walking next to a magma pool in a volcanic area, here in the physical. It's that easy. And so the scenario is that, okay. Well, Mary Jean has asked a question. She says, when you say devotion, what exactly do you mean? How does one do devotion? Okay. Devotion devotion is a form of focused love that has elements of a divine quality to it. You're giving love to divinity. You're giving love to the Kundalini, for instance. So as you give love to the Kundalini, you give devotional, energetic gifting to the Kundalini. As you give that gifting to the Kundalini, well, the Kundalini will use it for whatever purpose that it wants to use it for. But typically, it's for the development of the individual right then and there. And so devotion is that condensed, focused, emotional stream of consciousness that comes from the heart chakra and moves its way into the rest of the body. And that's what we're doing with devotion. And the way one does the devotion, because she asked another question, how does one do devotion? Well, the way one does devotion is by a prayer, strong prayer, or strong worship. Worshiping and giving devotion. You can have very, very devotional worship sessions, and that kind of devotion really can ramp up the amount of energy that a person is working with. And so do very, very, very strong devotional worship of the Shakti Kundalini, of Shakti or Shiva or Jesus or Mary or Buddha or Kuan Yin or great female spirit, great male spirit, whatever you want to call it. Do your manifestations of devotion to those symbols, or if you have a flesh teacher, and that flesh teacher is of the quality where you can give yourself to them. Then give yourself to that flesh teacher and allow their instructions to also begin to influence you as you begin to take paths that correspond with the noble truths, the noble qualities of behavioral expression within a Kundalini awakened example. And so these noble qualities are always about love and forgiveness and gratitude and tolerance and patience and the unconditional aspects of love, as well as any of the strong conditional aspects of love. Any and all aspects of love are what we're about here, as far as understanding and receiving and being able to help a person deflect the negative attributes of loss of love or perception of loss of love that they might encounter to hurt themselves. And so we put ourselves out there, just to pick up some of the emotional shards that other people have when they're going through their toxic phases. So yeah, okay, we've got a few people here. Good. And let's see. I see a Minnesota number. Looks like Rosemary has joined us, and looks like Joey, the Minnesota Twins, have joined us. Looks like we have Florida and a New York City number. So all the usual suspects here with us today on the phone line. So hello, everybody. Devotion, being this rocket fuel, can really send you into areas that you're not ready to deal with yet. I just need to tell you that straight up. Okay. You may find some of it repetitious because as you're going, I give myself to the Kundalini, I give control of my life, I give my life, I give control of, all of the things that you're giving to the Kundalini. You have to actually do it. You have to actually make that work for yourself. For all those qualities that you're adopting, they have to become real for you. That's how this works for you, is when you make it real. Okay, and so the question naturally goes, well, how much of it is just like mind control and all of this type of stuff? And I say, a good portion of it should be similar to mind control, because you're trying to get spiritual concepts past the very thin sieve of the Kundalini, and the Kundalini is just not going to allow that information, or actually the ego won't allow that information to spread into all parts of the body right off the bat. And so we have to keep introducing to the ego and to the subconscious these spiritual truths, and this is what we do when we give ourselves in devotion to our teacher or to God or to Kundalini. We give the truth that spiritual truth may reach around and help us, but also help others around us. Help those of us that are having perhaps a harder time than we are at the moment. And so, very important for you to understand how this works, the dynamics of how the devotion works. And as you do like with devotion, you can add a prostration to it. And so I have a YouTube video. If you want to give me a private email, you can email me at kfireforall@yahoo.com. So that's KFIREFORALL @yahoo.com. kfireforall@yahoo.com. You send me a private email. Let me know that you want to see the devotional positioning video, and I'll go ahead and send you that link. But not everybody's comfortable with devotion, and so there's that scenario with it too. And you don't have to do devotion, ladies and gentlemen. You do not have to unless you do. And by that I mean if you're just if you're just coming into an interest in the Kundalini and it's already giving you phenomena and understandings of this or that nature that's pointing directly at Kundalini, well, go with the flow. Go with that flow that's being set up for you right now. Go with that flow and let that flow give itself to you in the way that your Kundalini is directing you to receive it. Okay, don't just because you hear a flesh teacher say this and that. Well, they don't know everything that there is to know about you. Not like your Kundalini does. You see, your Kundalini has that information. So, never shortchange yourself. Always look at your Kundalini as having some very, very, very good answers to your questions as well. Just because you're so close to the forest that you can't see the trees, or however that works, doesn't mean that you need to mistrust what your own senses and your own Kundalini is showing you. Okay? So devotion really, really feeds this mechanism. It feeds it hot. Some of you, I mentioned some of you have a choice. Well, some of you don't have a choice. Some of you are almost jerked right into this intentional devotional practice so fast that it's almost as if the Kundalini doesn't want you to have any other experience besides that. It wants you to go straight there and really work with it from that angle. And once again, I will say you'll want to follow that instruction. You'll want to follow that instruction. Oh, wow. Okay. All right, I'm going to come back over here to Her Holiness. Ah, there she is. Hey, Santara.
Hi, Chris.
Did I interrupt you at something?
You mean, did you interrupt my very attentive listening? Yes.
Oh. Yes, of course. That's what I meant.
Of course. Indeed.
What do you have to add to this subject, my dear?
Well, I guess I'm one of the people who I've had no choice from the very beginning. Kundalini directed me to be devotional. It would have began with very spontaneous devotion, where I would have been pushed to the ground and I would have gone into worship and devotion to the Kundalini. And I was directed very quickly really to ask you. I mean, it was something I asked to do. I asked you about because I was pushed to do it from my Kundalini. And for me, I've been doing devotion for quite a long time now, and it is, gosh, there's so much I could say about it, Chris. I mean, it's a demonstration of my absolute surrender to my Kundalini. I mean, it's a physical and spiritual dance of love and surrender to my Kundalini, a giving of my body, my mind, my thoughts, my emotions, my feelings, my soul. All that I am, have been, will become, all of that to my Kundalini. And, I do devotion in all circumstances. I do it on Skype with you. I do it during my day. It's my first response, really, at this stage, to... It's not just done when I have challenges, I do it when I am in a wonderful, joyous place in my life, but it is my first response to challenges. If something is happening in my life, if I'm in turmoil, if something happens that shocks me, if I get an attack from somebody or from an entity, if I feel, an ego response of anger or some kind of a negativity like that begin to come, well then devotion is actually my first response, because by going into devotion, by giving myself to my Kundalini in that very, very focused way, it is very focused. I'm placing... It's a very focused placing of my attention and my intention. And that attention and intention is through it becomes an action, a prayer, a worship. It's a complete giving of myself. And so in that moment, I am no longer in that place where I wanted to, respond in a negative way. And in giving myself to the Kundalini, I open myself up into what the Kundalini would want. So it's my first saving grace, really, and not, it's a receptive and expressive thing. By that I mean it's a giving and it's also a receiving. So when I am giving my devotion to the Kundalini, either on my own, when something happens in my life, I give my Kundalini and I say, or if I'm saying it in devotion with my flesh teacher. Well, when I am doing that, it is expressive for me, but it is also receptive because I am receiving from the Kundalini at the very same time. I could go on and on, Chris, and it is certainly a rocket fuel as well. It brings amazing phenomena and the most incredible experiences that really I can't put words on or go into. Maybe I've enough said. How is that? Does that, yeah. This is where you say, yes, Amelia, that was wonderful, thank you. But that's me in devotion off the top of my head. You're so mean. Oh, okay. So this is where you say, and come on.
and the weather outside today.
So guys, that's me in devotion. And I could say a load more about it. It is something I have been doing for years. It's something I passionately hold in my heart and being. It's something that, I couldn't live my life without devotion. It is part of me. It's part of my breath and my heartbeat. So it's very much integrated into my being, my living. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. And listeners, really.
Oops. Somehow she got cut off there. I don't know how that happened. Forgive me, Santara. All right. So when you do the devotion and you really get yourself behind it, you got to really, really put your seatbelt on because it's gonna, the phenomena can become hot and heavy, or it can be longer and more drawn out for you just to test your staying power. So, for instance, if you've been doing devotion for a while and you're kind of, you're stopping, you're asking yourself, well, what the heck am I doing this for? And you're not finding that you're making the progress that you want to make. You really need to apply yourself more. This isn't you complaining outside to somebody, oh my gosh, it's not powerful enough for me. Well, if it's not powerful enough for you, you need to insert more power into the equation, more of an investment, more of an investment of your personal time and your personal feelings about this. Think about that. Think about what's going on with you regarding this and your Kundalini, and then from there, try to make a more informed choice with regards to, how you're going to work with it. So are you going to try to suppress it? Are you going to try to take drugs to suppress it? Are you going to welcome it? Are you going to surrender to it? What are you going to do with the Kundalini? When the Kundalini comes to you and starts to give you the phenomena, that really begins to blow your mind because it wasn't supposed to be real, it wasn't supposed to be true, and all of a sudden, here it is. So when that occurs, where's your head? Where's your head at when that occurs? Have you filled it with levels of information that give you instant reference points for some of these things that are happening to you? Or do you just go straight into fear? Or do you do a little bit of both? Well, I'm going to suggest that everybody does a little bit of both. Fear typically comes first, and then boom, we try to control that which we're afraid of, and we can insert our little control mechanisms that may or may not work. Not always are we supposed to have control over our inner or outer environments. That's not necessarily the goal that we want to have with that. And I'm going to swing it back to Her Holiness. There she is. Santara?
Hi, Bridget. I'd like to say another thing, and that is sometimes devotion brings balance. I mean, you're talking there about, phenomena coming through devotion. But sometimes, for myself, I can have incredible phenomena. I mean, it can be really, really amazing, and the devotion brings a balance to that, and it brings a calmness and a peace and an ability to have that phenomena in a way that's balanced. So devotion brings that as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Amelia. Thank you for sharing. But it's true. It's absolutely true. All right. So, Amelia, have you collected any questions? Hello. Amelia, still with us? Uh-oh. Looks like she got dropped. Oh no. So while we're waiting for Amelia to come back, Blog Talk just dropped her. And as some of you know, some of you certainly in the chat room know that Blog Talk will just drop you for just no reason at all. So if that's happened to you, I apologize, and we'll wait for a little bit for Miss Amelia to come back. So yeah, with regards to the devotion, some of you are just going to be tossed right into that. And having said that, it's going to be a difficult thing because in many of you, you're just starting your surrendering path, and if you're having to surrender yourself to a flesh teacher, oh my God, hang on to your hat, because that's always the worst thing for us here in the West, is to surrender to anybody that eats and sleeps and goes to the bathroom the same way everybody else does. That's what's being asked of you, and so you need to buckle down and do what your Kundalini is telling you to do. And if that means you give devotion to that flesh person, well, you get on your hands and knees and you give devotion to that person. That's what it means. That's exactly what it means. And so, with that in mind, take it to the limit. Don't be afraid. Don't necessarily shock people. Let them know. You can do it in private too, so you don't need to, it's not about shocking people. It's not about making people aware of your high spirituality. Not at all. We're not looking for self-aggrandizement here. This isn't about that. Okay? This is more about being points of radiance, points of divine radiance, which means that, we're points, we're points where that radiance can shine. Which means we keep ourselves to a level of purity. part of that level of purification is given through the actions of devotion. So devotion is not only a fuel, not only a quality of love, not only a quality of grace, not only a material quality. Okay. Love has these other qualities as well. Now let's see here. Oh my gosh, there she came back. She had to run away to do something, right, Santara?
I clicked the wrong buttons and I went off. I disconnected myself that time. I cannot blame Block Talk.
Ah, well then, okay.
Yeah, so my fault. You've got a question there from Minnesota, Chrism, if you'd like to go and ask, check in. I'm not sure if it's Jerry or if it is Rosemary, but you have a question.
Oh, it looks like Rosemary. Here we go. Hello, 452. How are you?
I'm fine, Krista. It is Rosemary, and I have it's a question of sorts. When we look at devotion in this new way, it is a new way, and we're conscious of it, and we're choosing it. And I'm thinking that there is somewhere in us the natural ability or practice or some connection. I'll tell you what I'm doing here right now is putting things together from the last seminar. I'm down here on the floor sorting for the future, the next seminar. So it occurs to me I can be dedicated in many ways. Like in our life, are we not dedicated? And we have more knowledge of it than we realize. And it's just raising it to a new level or expanding it. And that occurred to me as you were talking. And that would kind of open that up a little bit for me in terms of it's really not such a foreign thing that we might think. Is that correct, or am I...
devotion can be very natural. That's right. It can be a very natural thing, and I strongly. I mean, I know that it's different, Rosemary, than what the catechism of it would have been, but it is what it is. I mean, the devotion can be a very, very strong, very, very powerful force of grace that is given to us as we give ourselves into it. And that's something that I think people really not always, but many times, they fail to look at the personal investment. When you get on your knees and pray in church, that may not be enough. That may not be enough. You may need to...
Yes, no, I wasn't meaning even that. I don't think it was really even addressed in the way that was certainly not in what you're talking about. But it would be a response maybe to the things that we heard as a child, maybe even, or I don't remember being asked anywhere along my journey for devotion in this way. I think I could remember ways in which things that I did, most likely like as a young sister, where I wasn't on the right track, but I didn't see that. I'd be corrected about things. But that desire is still there, I think. Sorry, that didn't go very far.
So I think it's Yeah, it's a very important
I agree with
topic.
Rosemary. I think devotion is innate in us. I think it is something that when we were created, it was part of what we were given as part of us. It's in us. I mean, I think we were born to worship and be devotional and to sing that song of praise and to fall on our knees in many, many different ways. You know, in the woods, we can do it in the woods. We can do it on the earth. We can flesh. I think it's in every one of us. I think what happens is we suppress it. I think it's suppressed in us through religion. I think it's suppressed in us in many, many ways. And I think what happens within me, that was something that just burst forth as well, desire to be devotional, to be in worship. And I was able to expand that into my life because of having the gift of the flesh teacher. And I think that that's in every one of us, you know. I mean, I know, so I would agree with you. I would agree with you very much in what you're saying, Rosemary, if I'm saying the same thing. Whoops, was that heard as well?
Rosemary?
Yes.
Is she saying the same thing as you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard the voice say muted, so I thought, and I'm in a sneezing. You probably heard me sneezing. I do. I think there's some natural ability in us, and ways it shows up. And I was thinking of other examples that doesn't carry us down our journey, but the dedication and the commitment of a mother to her child, or the commitment that we have in our human relationships. I think that's part of it too. No, I that's what I was saying, Amelia. Thank you.
What about our animal relationships, Rosemary?
Yes.
What about our animal relationships? I want you to answer that one.
Me?
Yes.
I have not developed that anywhere in my life.
Does that mean that it shouldn't be developed?
No. I mean, it's not been there. When I was probably a teenager in the family, we had a dog, and it was more my younger sister's dog than mine. And I probably am most touched by connection with animals with you and Lasha when I am there at the ashram and connect with us.
What have you spent most of your life studying and worshiping? God, right?
Well, my idea of God. And
right.
I was thinking in our journey here in this conversation, Amelia, too, that mostly probably our devotion has been to ourselves and our own commitments and the connections that we have. But they've been narrow, but it's still something that we have. But probably my ego is the one that's gotten the most devotion.
Well, I mean, yeah, the ego will do that. But yeah, if you can, when you move outside of the ego, you can. Things are very different. Let's just put it that way. Things are very different. But it's just getting people to move towards that outer layer, that outer parameter of the ego self, so that the Kundalini can move in. So as you move one aspect of energy out, well, the Kundalini will move it in. And as that Kundalini moves in, certain levels of expansion can be felt by a person. So it's important for people to remember that. Certain levels of expansion. I'm going to go back to maybe she got kicked off again. No, there she is. Okay, Santara. Did you get any questions from the group?
Yes, I have some questions, Chrism. Going over there now. And here we go. Okay. First question, these first few are not from the group. They were sent to me to ask you on the person's behalf. So the first question is, are colours that are seen in meditation related to chakra colours?
Sometimes. Over.
Chrism. Okay, we're going to be finished very quickly today, I think. And when they're not, what are they related to?
Emotions.
Oh, okay.
Emotions.
Over?
Wants and desires, and say you've got this massage person and they're giving you a massage, but they just give the worst massage. They're touching you in all the wrong places, and you're just wishing for it to end. It's like, oh my God, will it just end? Well, it's that kind of wish fulfillment. You know what I mean?
No clue. Okay. All right.
Did I answer the question?
No.
Ask me the question again.
Are colours that are seen in meditation related to chakras? And if they are sometimes, well, what about the times that they're not related to chakras? What are the colours about then?
Emotions, thought patterns, how is the person manifesting reasons for comfort, reasons for safety, reasons for security? So that the first chakra issues can be taken out of the equation. And so yeah, that's how it will express itself. Without it.
Okay.
You have to really walk the talk of the noble qualities to get into some of the really pure areas of a chakra, or of a divine infusion of a chakra. You do. You need to really purify yourself to a certain degree. Don't be afraid to surrender. Don't be afraid to purify yourself. Don't be afraid, period. Don't be afraid at all. Give yourself into giving itself to you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the next question. Okay. What is the difference? You've answered this before, but it's been asked again. What is the difference between Reiki and Kundalini energy?
Oh, Reiki. Reiki would be more of an energy of intention placed and amplified by lower astral entities. Kundalini has very little control. It doesn't allow itself to be controlled by lower astral entities, and so, typically there's a very, very high reasoning for Kundalini to come into a person. With the Reiki energy, you are looking at a lot of entities, a lot of energies that are not good for a person, and so it's definitely not anything that I would use as a therapy for anything, but people do, and it's a big business right now. So there you have it. Reiki.
Would Reiki energy?
Go ahead.
Is Reiki energy external and Kundalini energy internal, or is that oversimplifying it?
Well, no. I mean,
or wrong?
I think that's a pretty reasonable approach. I mean, for some people, they're going to say, "Oh, well, my Reiki comes from inside," and their Reiki begins to personificate whatever it is their desires for having some sort of power are. So you just don't get as much of an honest opinion, I don't feel, when you're dealing with Reiki energies. When you're dealing with Kundalini, well, truth is one of the first and most profound rules of the Kundalini. It's all about truth, finding the truth of yourself, the truth of Homo sapien. I mean, to find the Kundalini, to have the Kundalini find you is one of the most powerful gifts a person can sustain. I mean, you're literally dancing on the edge of sanity with the Kundalini at times. Anyway, continue. Go ahead. Over.
Okay, thank you. Now, can a curse of a selfish person ruin your family life? Can this cause a person to move towards spirituality? This has happened in my case.
A curse? C-U-R-S-E?
Yes. I think not a curse word, an actual curse,
Well,
you have to upon your.
You have to believe in the curse itself. I mean, if the curse was done in a way that elicits an energetic response from you, well, then that can be turned into a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you want to watch that. Typically people need to participate in curses for the curse to work. Same with black magic. You need to, in some way, participate with the black magic for it to work. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and end that line of questioning, and I'm going to ask what Cole is asking here. He says, keeping in mind the virtue of ahimsa, I still want to ask this question. If entities are feeding off people to maintain their astral bodies, can't we astral project and destroy their astral bodies and send them to a different expression? Self-defense. But typically fighting fire with fire isn't the best mode of response with regards to entities. There are different ways to keep the entity influence clear, but I would always counsel people to use the entities and the experience of having the entity as a classroom. Let yourself learn from it without being caught up in it. So it's like studying a rattlesnake. You study the rattlesnake, but you don't stick your hand in there to get bit. Okay. So, I think that there are many ways to deal with the entities, but to allow the noble qualities to come forward in a greater and greater way, I think is one of the best ways that you can honor the Kundalini within you as you work towards finding stability in the new world that's exposing itself to you as the entities begin to come into view. Okay. And I'm coming back to you, Centauro.
Next question. Can Kundalini tell you to end your life? Would that be normal?
No. Not only would that be normal, that would not be something that the Kundalini does. So if we're talking about committing suicide or something of that nature, no, Kundalini does not do that. That would be more along the lines of an entity doing that. That's what the entities do. They try to give you a lot of self-doubt, and from that self-doubt, people make bad choices. So based upon that understanding, Yeah, that's how I would deal with that. It's
Okay.
over.
Okay. Thank you. Now, this is from the groups. I'm gone on to the groups, Prism. So this is from the public group. Hi. Yesterday I got the message from a neighbour that his former stepson had cancer, a tumour in the skeleton, and the doctor said it was malignant. I went home, asked my Kundalini for a prayer of healing for this young man. Today I got the message that the doctors had scanned his body earlier today, and they are now saying it is most likely not malignant, different to his first scan. I'm not sure what to think. Is it the Kundalini, or did the doctors make a mistake in the first place? I know it is impossible for anyone here to answer, but any input on how one can discern coincidences from a real healing event would be appreciated. I thank the Kundalini anyway. If it is her, it is truly divine.
Well, I would
Over.
I would strongly suggest that you get rid of the idea that coincidence even exists. And as far as the Kundalini can easily manifest something of those natures. It can manifest both scenarios. Yeah, Kundalini's not limited in how it can manifest to an individual. It can manifest any and all scenarios that it feels will suit its purposes with you. With you. Go ahead, my dear.
Okay, so I suppose the thing to do, not to be attached really, wouldn't it, to ask for the healing and then, let it go, and not with that, and the person thanking the Kundalini afterwards, which has been the correct action, but not spending too much time considering was it this, was it that, was it, not to be, would that be correct?
Well, try not to get too lost into the whole correctness of things. You always want to make your separations after you give a healing. So you make your separations. You make the separations, and then, the healing goes its way and you go the other way.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. I changed my food to bland, and I can feel the positive effect on the headaches and the fight-flight response that caused me digestive problems. Is there anything I can do about that? I'm not getting this actually. I just copied and pasted it. Sorry. I changed my food to bland, and I can feel the positive effect on the headaches and the fight-flight response. But the changing to the bland diet caused digestive problems, even though it helps the headaches and the fight or flight response. Is there anything this person can do about that?
Well, yeah, you can let it go for more than a week and a half maybe, and see how your body acclimates to it. After that, when you change up things like that, sometimes the body needs time to acclimate.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And then another question from the same person is, I am searching for an authentic book or website on Kundalini and food. Any suggestions, please? She has found some on the internet but is not sure about them. So an authentic book or website on Kundalini and food. Would you have any suggestion, Chrism?
Yeah, I would. I'd suggest the Amazon jungle would be a good resource for that. Any of the natural forested woodlands, low-lying hills within a Mediterranean climate would be a good source for that. But certainly things along the lines of, say, a jungle environment would have a lot of info on that. Over.
Okay. Okay. I thought maybe you might actually say, well, there is a book coming called Kundalini Diet by Chrism.
I do have that book. I have that book.
Yes, and it shall be published in 2016, perhaps.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I have a wolf staring at me right now. I'm saying in the presence of a wolf. Go ahead.
Hello, wolf. Okay, so the next question. Okay, so the question is about alcohol. Where's it gone? Just scrolled down. Okay. How does alcohol open up the body to allow entities easier access? And would there be a similar result from long-term antibiotic use?
No, for the antibiotic, except for the other things they put in the antibiotic. If it was just the antibiotic, it would be a no. But for some of the things like thalidomide and other kind of ingredients that they put into the antibiotic, there could be longer lasting ramifications from that. What was the first part of the question again?
The first part really is how does alcohol open up the body to allow entities easier access?
So what they do is what alcohol does is it thins the veil between the two realities, and some entities can take advantage of the thinness of that veil that alcohol causes and begin to possess the individual. That's what happens. It's very simple, not complicated. The effect that alcohol has on people. Over.
Okay. Next question. Can the Kundalini turn off emotions to a situation so that we can just deal with it logically rather than overloading on emotions?
Sometimes.
I've woken up detached and numb. Yeah?
Yeah, sometimes it'll do that. It'll do that. Sometimes people just don't need to be into a huge state of grief because, they've got a family to keep together, and so that person's grief gets put on hold while the rest of the family's needs are tended to. You understand what I mean? You probably don't understand because, you've only had 6 kids, so you don't really get that part, I guess. Unless you've had 10 or 12, you don't really get that training.
Yeah, this is true. Okay. Well, the next question is, I get sudden twitches in my left thigh, been a few weeks now. This can happen anytime. It's a sharp kind of a pain for those few seconds and then it disappears. Can you kindly advise if this is due to Kundalini and will disappear at some point, or should I be checking with the doctor? Many thanks.
I would go with the Kundalini. So
sudden twitches in the left side. Yeah. And it's a Kundalini person.
Right. That's once Kundalini's got you, she's got you. And so once you have the Kundalini, if you're a Kundalini person, well, then the Kundalini's in your system. And whether or not you think it's giving you the phenomena that proves its presence in your system, that doesn't really matter. What really matters is that it's in your system. And therefore, it's going to be working its way through your system. Over.
And so everything is Kundalini in those circumstances, isn't it, Chrism?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Next question. Now, can the Safeties help us lower the pains at body's parts whenever one of us has problems? I have to switch this now, sorry. Can the Safeties help us lower the pains in body parts when we have problems with hidden energy or blocked emotions?
Yes, it can actually take the pain away completely. You won't feel the pain at all. That's not always what it does, but it has the ability to eradicate pain completely. Completely.
Mm.
I've had a person get a broken back in a skiing accident, and instead of feeling pain, they felt deep warmth spreading throughout their back. Well, little did they know that was the Kundalini spreading. They should have been in exquisite pain, and they weren't. Well, at least not that kind of pain.
Okay. Also, could you guide me about the animal presences? Sorry. Although I also need to... Can you guide me about the animal presence during meditation?
Well,
I think the person is asking about animal presence during meditation. What's that about, really?
Well, the thing that you want to do when you're dealing with animal presence is you want to make sure that you also give them a present if they're giving you one. It's very important to remember that.
Okay. Okay. I'm scrolling.
That's okay. Wait a minute. So I have to answer that question, really.
Okay.
If you're getting animal presence during meditation, you're quite possibly tying into another time when the religion was centered around what kind of animal was in your space. And so if you're seeing animal presences of a Kundalini nature, so you'll see maybe a big cat, a tiger, or a big serpent, or hornets or bees or wolves or whatever, top of the line predator species, well, then you know that this is of a Kundalini nature that's taking place. And so you can discern from the nature of the animals that you see around you what flavor of energy or what stage perhaps of the Kundalini one is inside of. Over.
Thank you. Next question. Why does the Kundalini give me to know much more than what a person is revealing to me about their life?
Say again.
Why does the Kundalini give me to know much more than what a person is revealing to me about their life?
Because honesty and truth is a very important quality to the Kundalini. And it will give that honesty and truth, regardless of social improprieties.
Okay, so the Kundalini is bypassing the lack of truth. Is that what you're saying? And giving the truth directly to this person?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. If a person is reliving old trauma night after night after night, what purpose does that serve in a Kundalini context?
Refinement. Beating down their resistance. Wearing them down to the point where they can finally surrender themselves to the Kundalini within. It's a very strong purpose. It's a very strong reason. You know what I mean?
Okay. So what would a person do, Chrism, if this was happening night after night? Let's say it's going on and it's going on and it's going on and they're going, do they begin to forgive? I mean, what do they do?
Well, I would buy a candy apple and have some fun with it. Personally.
Okay.
But
right.
if they can't do that, just make sure the tongue stays up and that they stay, grounded to to a good level. I mean, you don't need to go out and like live next to a tree, but keep an eye on your grounding level and see how that's going for yourself. Participate strongly in any of the physical exercises that you can participate in. If you have a wolf like I do now, well, you can walk 16 miles a week. So, get off of that chair, get off whatever you're doing, and get up and take a walk. Walk that wolf. Walk that wolf,
okay.
That inner wolf or the external wolf.
2 days back, I went to a different city. I was in a hotel room. There in the morning, around 5:45, I felt like I was seeing with a golden light somewhere in the forehead and not through my usual 2 eyes. It was nice, but different. Then I saw a skull kind of face in the sunshine kind of light. So I terminated the vision by coming back deliberately and waking up. I was calm and ignored this as if I was passing someone. Yes, before that I had been feeling as if there was a spider on my foot and then on my outer wrist. What could it be?
Well, I think the answer is deposited inside one of those. You'll have to go to your local supermarket like a Tesco or Walmart if you're in the States. And you got to make sure you go up to the right little candy machine. They have those little machines that you stick quarters into. And if you find the right one that says code book, well, then you can put all the quarters you can get in order to get the code book out. And that code book should tell you exactly what that is.
Whoa. Okay. Well, that's the end of my questions for today, Quism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting answers.
Well, So with that in mind, though, it's really important for people to look at their grounding, and make sure that they're not getting too frightened out of their mind or out of control with panic, things of that nature. Very important that you understand that. All right then. Well, Amelia.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to end this show, I guess, an hour early, unless you have something you'd like to say.
Well, not an hour early, just half an hour early.
Half an hour early.
So, no, I have nothing to say, really. Just if you're being called by your Kundalini to be devotional in any way, go with it. If you feel yourself falling to the ground and just being devotional, go with it. You will be amazed, and the expansion and the infusion and just the sheer delight of it is something that you should allow yourself to experience. If that is coming, don't resist it. And that's all really, Quism. Devotion is a wonderful aspect in a Kundalini process. So if you're being called to do that, do allow it to happen. That would be my final word, really.
Let's see. Cole asks, she says, does the body need to be fully relaxed to enter an OBE? And I'd have to say, yeah, relaxation is good with that. What could be some of the reasons why a person feels a lot of pain trying to inhabit and relax into their physical body? I've been having to ease into it slowly over time. Well, it's because you had some and still have some visitors that make that a little more difficult. And he continues to ask, I recognize how stuck in my head I've been. I'm feeling more strength and weighted to the ground as I inhabit it more and more every day. Very good. That is good. Okay, and I don't know that I've missed anybody else's question here. No, it's okay. All right. Okay, and I would like to thank everybody for listening, and I'm going to go ahead and end this episode, and I'm going to do it the way that I have been doing it. So good night, everybody, and thank you for listening.